Hello, I'm Ian.
And I'm Darren.
And welcome to the Average Bikers in a Cave, a show where a group of bikers chat and share opinions about all things motorbike, from news, reviews, interviews and the big questions. If you like what you hear, then be sure to subscribe, tell your friends and leave us a review.
On today's first ever episode, we will introduce ourselves, let you know a little bit about the show, chat about some of the big news and tackle this week's big question: license rules and tests today. Is it too tough or is it not tough enough? As always, this week's episode is sponsored by Off the Ground, an exceptional drone, wedding, portraiture and events photography and videography company that specialises in capturing video and images on the ground and in the air in a style that is modern yet timeless, interesting and vibrant, with a focus on exhilarating moments and pure fun. Using their experience, skills and knowledge, they will work with you to ensure your videos and photos are exactly the way you want them. For more information or to chat to the team, head over to www.halftheground.com or check out their Facebook page. Without further ado, let's dive straight in.
So, with this being the first episode ever, we thought that it would make sense to tell you a bit about the show and what to expect, and then, well, maybe a little bit about us.
So let's start with the show. Our show is a chance for, I would say, a group of bikers. Right now it's only you and I, but eventually it'll be a group of bikers to talk about all things motorbike related, and some of it may be very loosely related.
I think probably quite a lot of it very loosely. Let's be honest.
It's like we'll find the most tiniest strand of relevance between one thing and another. Yeah, guaranteed.
And if I don't get to mention Lego at some point, I'll... Did I tell you I bought the Ducati Technics Lego model?
Oh my God. Is that to go? You got the Harley one, didn't you? You bought the Fat Bob one.
So, anyway, we digress. See, we already digressed. Carry on.
Each week, unfortunately, we'll be your hosts. But on occasion, we will be joined by some of our other colleagues and like-minded idiots who will quite happily drop in. I say colleagues, that sounds terrible. You know what I mean? They are our friends. Friends, even that's a stab in the dark. But they'll join us and they'll share their they'll share their opinions and their thoughts on some of the stuff that we're talking about each week. Yeah,
every week we'll check in. Not that much is happening in lockdown, but you never know. Things are changing. Yeah. They're changing soon. Any excuse to get on your bike. Can't believe how many loaves of bread I've gone for recently. We'll catch up on anything news-wise in the biking world, whether that's like a new bike launch, test rides, which hopefully we'll try and get in. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Big thumbs up from Darren. Regulation changes, insights, and anything that kind of grabs our attention throughout the week that we're aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the main feature for us every show, every week, will be the big question. I should have got some nice I should have got some sort of like funky, you know what I mean?
That will be to come. Anyone
I will work on that.
Yeah, anyone wants to suggest or record it for us and send it in, that would help.
Royalty free, of course. But yeah, the big question every week will be something that we identify as a topic or a point of interest that we can literally debate the absolute life out of, and we'll just hammer it. We will literally hammer the guts at it.
Yeah. It'll be bike related.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Kind of,
yeah,
obviously.
We're not going to talk about Thornton's chocolates and
no.
You know what I mean? Although that would be a good debate.
Well, then what if they bring out a chocolate motorbike?
Well, that's different. It's motorbike related then, so that gets away with it.
So never say never.
No, never say never. Obviously, as we grow the show, we'll look to get some industry experts and some professionals in to share their viewpoint with us, and you never know, maybe a wee cheeky Z-list biker celebrity in for a wee cheeky blether would be quite interesting. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll evolve as we grow.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and again, we'll try at some stage to get some lovely listener input, maybe some questions and topics and things that you guys find interesting and want to talk about or want us to explore a bit more.
Excellent. So now that you know what to expect from the show, or what loosely to expect from the show.
It was very vague, wasn't it?
It was very vague, yeah. The more vague the better.
You wouldn't know that we'd actually worked on this, but yeah.
Absolutely. Let's give us a wee bit about ourselves. I'll start myself, Ian here, and I am 47. 47 years old. So,
Are you? I didn't think you were. I've known you for years, and I didn't think you were that old. I thought we were closer than that.
that right? Aye.
I did.
Because you're in your 50s, of course, Dan. So,
Uh,
you know what I mean? Aye, so Ian here, 47. Dan, you can give away your age, mate.
I should have thrown in a what there.
Should have, absolutely. Do it in post.
Yeah, aye. I'll do it in post. Yeah, throw it in a. Yeah, I'm 44, coming on 45. If that makes you feel better, Ian.
Well, no, because that means I'm coming on 48, so it just completely negates the whole point there. So
I thought maybe you just turned 47. I thought
no,
maybe you
unfortunately,
just.
no, a couple of months' time.
All right, we'll cut that out in
Aye.
post. But yeah, 48, 48, 44. You're 48. I'm 44, going 45.
That's it. Numbers weren't a strong point on it.
No, never. No. Aye. And then I'm going to ask myself, how long have I been riding?
Absolutely. 20 minutes, mate.
This year, none. I've been riding 4 years, 4 and a bit years, including the whole CBT ringing the neck out of 125 for a year. Aye. What you riding, Ian?
I am right.
Tell the lovely people about your absolute stunner.
My bike is a...
Yeah, sorry, I should have cleared that up.
I'm just going
Your
to
bike.
clarify that, this is not... But we aren't taking a kind of strange tangent in the podcast here.
We told you it'd be loose.
I am riding a 2018 Triumph Street Cup, which I got from you. So it's a Bonville T100 engine, a 900 two-stroke. So nice wee bike. It looks like a wasp, essentially, black and yellow.
And it goes like a wasp
And it
in
goes like a
traffic.
wasp, absolutely.
I'm not going to mention the Tron incident.
Don't
We'll cover that much later in life.
We'll cover that when we do action cams and maybe add some special effects on
Exactly.
post the video. Triumph Street Cup, which I've had since 2018. I've been riding since about 2004. I'm not even going to do the maths here. 17 years, something like that. But
Tell the story. I know this is us going off on a tangent, but tell the story. The day you passed your big test. Well, it wasn't really a big test back then. I was just kind of getting them away. But you passed the big test and you decided, I've seen a bike. I'm going to go on holiday.
Aye. Well, basically, 2004, passed a bike test on the Friday. Phoned up the lovely guys at the Suzuki garage in Cooper in Fife. Who
Which, if anyone doesn't know, is like kind of northeast of Scotland. It's up there.
You'll talk like that. And there's great fish and chips.
I'll give them that. The fish and chips is amazing in there.
So I phoned up the guys Cooper in Fife, saw a GSX F600. I think brand new, it was only about $3,500, so it was brilliant, right? Great price. Phoned them up, had just been made redundant, had money sitting in the bank from when I worked for the AA, and this was black and yellow, so I thought it's a sign. It's a sign. It's my favourite colours. It reminds me of Batman, so. So just passed my test, phoned them up, put the deposit down on it, and then went to Canada for 5 days, literally. Came back on the Friday from Canada, drove to Cooper on the Saturday, bought the bike, rode it home, and probably the worst weather I have ever ridden a bike in my life. I mean, you've just passed your test, you've passed it on a nice, simple Suzuki 500, you've then got on to this, it's not mega sporty, but when you've never ridden a bike like that before, it's pretty sporty, and you hit the Forth Road Bridge with hail that's hitting you for the sides. You get across shots, and it's like snowing, in October. And literally got home with my first bike, pristine condition, brand new, couple of miles, and drops it on its side, slipped in the mud, ended up my arse, and so that was I've learned very quickly to be very careful when.
Have you ever dropped a bike since though?
Aye, I've dropped that one again twice, but 2 days later. No, don't think I've dropped a bike since. I've had that Ninja, had a Ninja as well, and then I took a wee break, went to New Zealand for a wee while, so I took a wee break from riding, and then get back. So I've never dropped a Ninja, never dropped a Triumph, but I did drop that GSX a few times.
Good to learn on the first one though.
Absolutely.
I am riding a 2020 BMW 1250 RT, the new shift cam one, not the one with the lovely shiny full 10-inch TFT dash in it, unfortunately. But yeah, there you go.
Still very, very nice.
It's an absolute. It's just like a couch on two wheels. It's absolutely phenomenal, and it's surprisingly sporty. I'm currently doing my IAM, which we'll talk about advanced riding, whether we shouldn't, and all that kind of good stuff later.
I've got a friend's going to come on the podcast who's an IAM instructor and does tours and stuff, so we'll speak to Hugh when he comes on in a few weeks' time, hopefully.
Yep. And it's surprisingly nimble round the bends for such a big unit. It's light, but it just looks absolutely massive. I've had probably more bikes than I probably should have.
In the 4 years you've been riding, you've had more bikes than me, I think, to be honest.
Aye, I think I've had
17 years I've been riding.
I've had 2 Harleys, a GS, and now that LT, and that's not including my 125.
I think so.
But this one definitely I'm going to keep for. Well, we'll leave that there. In case the wife's listening.
Absolutely, yeah.
Although I can ride the Horn Ninja. I'm on horse insurance for Horn Ninja. Just the fact that it's had a link taken out it to make it that wee bit lower. I'm like a monkey on a trike at a circus. It's
probably good to let you know at this point in time that Darren is a tall.
I'm a big boy,
big guy, and I'm a wee short arse. So
Aye.
so
I wouldn't say short arse. That's a bit harsh.
5'7". I'm short.
Short
and I've got a long body and wee legs. So I just look at Darren's bike and think to myself, somebody give me a ladder.
But yeah, I've surprisingly got short legs.
Have you?
I have surprisingly short legs. I just make up for it by trying to get on my tiptoes, and I'm not going to let that stop me buying a really nice bike.
No, fair enough, aye.
It's just not worth it. I'd much rather enjoy it. Although, we'll cover that later. Aye. There's new technology on the horizon in certain bikes, which makes that a thing of the past, hopefully.
Yeah. Aye.
Dream bike, Ian.
Dream bike. That's kind of difficult. That changes every week. At the moment, I'm really, really looking at the new Speedmaster, Triumph Speedmaster. It just looks, it's kind of so old school in its styling, but it just looks like a kind of short arse leg person's comfy bike. So from that point of view, that's probably the one. If somebody gave me the cash tomorrow, I'd go out and buy. I'm not a fast rider. Forget the Tron incident. Unless I'm expecting a meeting for somebody in Spain, I'm not a fast rider. But I just like to kind of plod along. The Speedmaster just looks nice and comfy. So at the minute, but ask me next week.
That's a good choice.
Ask this question
that is a good choice. The Speedmaster is lovely.
It'll be a different bike next week. Do you know what I mean? When I first started, first time I was ever on a bike was in the back of a Honda VFR, and it was before the Honda VFR was like super electronic.
And they stopped making them.
I know, I saw that. And it was like before they were like super electronic with all the traction control and all that, and back roads of Orpington of all places, at 100 miles an hour, sitting in the back of my mate's VFR, and that was why I was like, yeah, I want one of these, and I want that. So I've always had a wee soft spot for the old Honda VFR.
So that's what got you into biking.
Aye, exactly, yeah, exactly.
Being on the back.
Yeah. That got me into biking, and redundancy for the AA got me the money to get into biking.
Aye, because I think everybody listening knows and appreciates the fact that it's an expensive lifestyle.
You can say to yourself, right? And I use this as justification. I said, look, to my wife, they're dead cheap to run. Hardly any petrol. And everything like that. You don't mention the very short service intervals. You don't mention the gear. You don't mention all the wee tweaks and the toys. And of course, when you're currently, I think I've got about 6 motorbike helmets because you just like to varieties of space of life.
Aye, and why would you not have 6 helmets?
Exactly.
I mean, and then 6 helmets, and then you end up with 6 jackets to match the helmets, and I know it gets crazy.
Yeah,
it does get crazy.
What were you? Dream bike?
I'm with you. Not on the speed. Well, I do like Speedmaster. I do like. It's going to sound like we're Triumph fanboys here. I do like the Bobber. I do still like the Bobber. I think it's such a lovely little thing. Bike, my youngest daughter wouldn't forgive me though, because she loves being on the back, and the Bobber's has no pillion. Yeah. I've always been a massive fan of the Ducati Diavel. The Diavel's just.
You always talked about that. It's true.
You know what I mean? But again, it doesn't lend itself well to passengers. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's a tough call. Dream bike, if somebody turned around and went, there's 50 grand, you don't need to get rid of your own bike, you can just go and buy another one. I'm going to be controversial here. I'd probably buy a Livewire. And
you've been on it.
I've been on that, and purely because it's just a whole different experience. And I wouldn't, I mean, there's no way you get a pillion in the back because it's absolutely tiny. The seat in the back is just ridiculous. But as taking it out for like an hour's blast or gone maybe a 40, 50 mile run on a Sunday or something, it'd be great. It's amazing. You know what I mean? And it's just instant power. But
I don't think it's controversial as much as maybe just. I mean, it's going to be the future, isn't it? Eventually, you know.
Well, and Triumph are coming out with their own.
I was reading that the other day, for their stuff. So
20-minute charge time. That's going to be a game changer.
Aye,
because that's literally. I mean, I can go and fill the car up with petrol and spend 20 minutes in the petrol station. So charging a bike's not going to be an issue.
Absolutely. It takes a while to pick your Pringles. Let's be honest. You know what I mean?
It does. It does.
Then sit in a wall and eat them. Do you know what I mean?
In one sitting. In one sitting. And we promise that we'll not do that on the podcast because that would just be would be hard listening for anyone. Dream trip. Where would be your ideal dream trip? Matter of fact, let's spice it up. Let's say dream trip on any bike. What would it be?
Good question. I mean, I think. Obviously, everybody says Route 66 and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've watched a lot of stuff from Route 66, and it doesn't. There's bits of it that look interesting, but there's an awful lot of it that looks just offy straight and offy boring. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's like they do it.
It's just big straight roads for a lot of it.
I mean, the North Coast 500, right, is an absolute must.
Aye, and I think once obviously
restrictions and everything.
I was going to say chaos is past, and I think that's definitely something we should look into. We could even do nice vlogs and stuff like that on the trip.
Absolutely,
turn that into a whole series. So.
And I think that's easy to do, you know. And I think sometimes you forget how close some of the nice routes are that you've got in Scotland that you can do that. Round Ireland would be amazing, especially down Cork and Kerry way and all that down that way, and Dingle and all these kind of places. You know, but I suppose if I had the skills, and I wouldn't say I've got the skills, but something like, you know, like do the Dakar Rally in a bike. I
think you guys Nürburgring or something like that. And I was like, whoa,
you know, something like that would be pretty incredible to do. You know,
aye, that just scares the life out of me.
Oh, it scares the life out of me too. But I don't think I've ever got the skills to do it or the long enough legs. But you know, we'll go back to the legs thing. But you know that. But see, generally, just getting on a bike and going anywhere.
Anywhere's just. I think
anywhere's better than nowhere.
I appreciate that more now, having been in a year of lockdown, because I think you're at a point, or I was definitely at a point, because I use my bike all the time. You know what I mean, I purposely got rid of my motor so that, you know what I mean, it wasn't an excuse to go out on the bike, but I was literally hardly ever using my car, so there's no point in having it. But you're right, I think going anywhere at the minute that's not in your local catchment area, you know what I mean, or your local level zone or whatever they're calling it these days, it's just an absolute joy. Do you know what I mean? Even if it is just a blast up to the Green Valley for a cup of coffee and back again would be an absolute joy. So
if you're lucky enough to be listening to this from somewhere more exotic than the west coast of Scotland, although the west coast of Scotland for some people is exotic, but you know, if you do come to the west coast of Scotland and you're a biker, you will experience the joys of the Green Valley and a fried haggis and a breakfast. Do you know what I mean?
If anyone's not online, we'll do a bit of a drop, but there's a whole load of YouTubers have done the North Coast 500, but have shown it from riding up the west coast way, up along Loch Lomond and up the Green Valley and through Glencoe and stuff like that. So if you get a chance, get on there. The first one I ever watched on it was a guy called TMF, so the Mizzen Flyer, and his was it was like, I think he did about 6 or 7 videos, and it was kind of little stages all the way around, and it was absolutely tremendous to watch. And it was like, you forget, I think we maybe take it for granted just how stunning some of the views we've got here are.
I was lucky enough to spend 7 months in New Zealand over the course of a couple of years, and New Zealand's stunning. I would take a bike around New Zealand happily, you know, especially the South Island is just amazing, and I'd love to do that. But when friends that we met over there came to Scotland, they were blown away by Scotland, and it just reminds you, you know, that when it's right in front of you, you forget how beautiful it is.
I think I'm with you. The whole Route 66 thing is a great idea, but I think a lot of it would be quite dull.
Used to be really dangerous before they kind of.
Aye, and you see these guys going, "Oh, I'd love to do it on a Harley and all that," and you're going, "It's a lot of miles to cover on a Harley." And I'm not slating Harleys because I've had a couple, but it's a lot of miles to cover on a Harley, especially on maybe roads that aren't as maintained as some of the freeways and stuff like that. For me, I'm like you. North Coast 500 definitely has to be done. Maybe even extending it to take in the Isles, so take in Skye and stuff like that as well. Which
I'd love to go up to Orkney with a bike and just.
Oh,
I'd actually love to go up to Orkney with a bike and a drone. And just have the drone follow you, especially over the, where they scuttled the German fleet in World War I and all that. It's just
don't go up the A9. It might get taken out by a RAF plane. And then it's taken out. I think if I was doing somewhere that was fairly close to home, without including home, I think I'd do Norway. I think I'd do the Arctic Circle and kind of ride up through the kind of Scandinavia into Norway and up to the Arctic Circle. Yeah, albeit you've got to pick the right time of the year to do it, or it's just chaos. A bit like Scotland, but on stuff that I've looked at and seen, Norway is very similar to here. It's just like, and I suppose
I've never been to Norway. I've been to Sweden, and I love Sweden. So yeah.
Just expensive for beer.
Aye,
you know what I mean, which might not be a bad thing. But there you go.
Nice one.
So there you go. That's like a good bit of buzz. You mean?
Yeah. So
if you're rating somebody drop at that point and you're still with us, then happy days.
Brilliant. Thank you for keeping on listening.
I know, right? Onwards and upwards. Let's move on to big news. Like big news, where's the jingle? I know.
Where's your jingle? Get your
I
jingles
failed
in for the boys. Come on.
I failed the game for the jingle. Do you know what I mean? Hey, no.
Tell you what we'll do. We'll just talk crap for a couple of seconds. You can cut that
and put a jingle in.
And then we'll just go straight onto the heading. How's that?
That's not a bad idea. All right, stories for the biking world. We've dug out some highlights from, I would say, this week's MCN, but obviously we're kind of pre-recording, we're a bit behind, so I mean, it's still
recent issues of MCN.
Recent issues of MCN. Is there a big pile? It's like a doctor's waiting room in the corner of the cave. But yeah, right, Ian, I'll let you go first. What have you found?
We've got Norton has a new factory. Norton bikes, of course. Yeah, absolutely nice. There's the jingle. So
yes.
TVS, the company who bought Norton, has been beavering away preparing the new factory for the past. Don't know. It seems to be forever, doesn't it? It's been kind of hinted about and whispered about and talked about for quite a while. But it's looking very close to it being ready. So according to TVS, new factory in Solar Park in Solihull. Solihull. That's terrible.
That's the
used to go down to Solihull when I worked for the EA. Used to have a thing near there. We'd go down to.
I used to go. I've been doing a couple of times going to Jag your Land Rover. I used to work at a place and we did transfer boxes for the Defender.
And it was here down to Solihull's Birmingham, isn't it?
Aye,
so that
just
was Hales Own when we were down when he had a bit at Hales Own. It'll be operational by the end of March, so it might even be operational by the time this podcast is out and kicking about, so you might have read about it. They're going to restart production of the Commando Classic model to honour those customers who paid a deposit in these
Which
bikes.
is good. Which is awesome.
That was a long time ago that first came out, didn't it?
And that was terrible. You know what I mean? We'll not dwell on it.
No.
You know what I mean?
If you're listening and you're one of those customers, then you're going to get your bike.
Happy days, and rightly so.
Absolutely. You want to get it signed in gold or something, so it's worth something for you. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I've got a thing about that in a minute.
There you go. And then soon after, they're going to commence production on the V4SS. The Joint Managing Director has said that the opening of this state-of-the-art facility will create the foundations for a long-term future for Norton.
Which is good.
It's good, especially considering what's happening now, pandemic and all that, in lots of places, kind of closing down, having that level of...
You're drifting away there. I
was drifting away, dreaming of a better time.
I thought you were nodding off. I thought, here we go.
Drifting away, dreaming of a better time when we had industry.
You're thinking you want a Norton now. You better go back and change that dream bike to a Norton.
No, I'm still going with the Speedmaster.
TVS, I think, are actually Tech Mahindra.
Are they?
Me and Ian used to work at a place before that had a partner that was part of Tech Mahindra. And TVS, I'm sure, is Tech Mahindra's vehicle services division or something.
Cool. Anyway, as the managing director said, it's hopefully going to be a long-term sustainable future for Norton and in the UK, which is brilliant. So
good news. Happy days.
Good stuff.
Talking about signed bikes, there's a new bike from Bruff Superior. If anyone doesn't know what Bruff Superior is, then go and Google it, because their bikes are absolutely stunning. They are super expensive though.
I was going to say they're not quite a couple of quid, are they?
No, that's lottery winning bike up there with your Aston Martin venture thing. They're creating a new special ultra limited edition version. So it's not just an ultra edition or a limited edition or a special. It's a special ultra limited edition of the SS 100 V Twin, which doesn't sound like much to people, but it's like a 60 grand base bike. They're calling it the SS 100 Bert Lavac. So it's named after a famous racer. I think back in the kind of early 1900s. He was an engineer, a racer, a tuner. He earned the nickname the Wizard of Brooklands because there's a banked circuit in Surrey, which is obviously called Brooklands. And apparently some of the stuff he did on there was out of this world. And that's back in the 1900s where, bikes were different and safety was different and all that stuff. So it's a 997cc 90 degree V-twin that produces 100 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound like much, but the fact that it'll be such a little light, nimble thing, it'll be an absolute rocket. Again, I don't tend to get hung up too much on the whole brake horsepower because I think it's all relative, really. I think. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of bikes don't even tell you that; they just tell you the torque, don't they?
Aye, well, Harley are infamous for that. They never. I think the new Pan America tells you, but I think that's just a one-off.
I have to confess that I'm not a mechanically minded. I'm your non-mechanically minded biker. That if something goes on my bike, I get somebody else to fix.
Aye.
So, so I'm not that. I'm not a big. I don't obsess over the numbers and anything like that.
No, it's the basic stuff. You know what the TCE, the displacement, the horsepower, the torque. That's about all you really need to know. And does it sound good and go it?
It's monkeys. Not, we'll probably get some people on it. For those that like a bit more detail, some of the guests will come in and give you a bit more kind of
techie stuff.
Exactly. Stuff. But I'm very much like that colour.
Aye. Ooh, that's nice. Does that come with luggage? Oh my god, maybe I'm 50. Maybe I'm actually 50 and I just don't realise it. I need to check my birth certificate.
There's no grey on you yet, mate, so you're alright.
Grishon.
Noticeable grey.
Grishon. It's a big retro style bike with nice big 18-inch wheels, 230mm quadruple front disc brakes on it, which sounds, if you need a brake that size, it's needing stopping power, which insinuates that it's going to go fast. As always with Bruff though, it is absolutely stunning. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Why is it special ultra limited edition? I hear you cry. And this comes back to your having it signed. There's only going to be 9 made.
Oof. That is.
I know. I think Aston
Martin. A bit of a weird number, isn't it?
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a bizarre number.
Have they only got enough room for like a single digit on it? Maybe they've.
I don't know. Is the tank that slim that you mean?
Exactly.
Aye.
We can't do 10. We can't put 2 digits in the tank.
No, well they're gonna mark on it the number of the bike, obviously. So maybe that is something. Maybe they're like, yeah, you mean 10 would like put the price up by 10 grand if we put 2 digits on it. But it's going to have Lavac signature right across the tank, which is going to look. Again, if you've got the money, I would. Bruff Superiors are just. I would
imagine they've probably already pre-ordered.
And I guarantee you, if there's only 9 made, it's going to hold its money.
Aye.
You could probably ride it for a bit and sell it and get all the money back.
It's probably already a space in Jay Leno's garage for one of them.
Can't I say any more than that? You've probably just summed that right up.
Aye. What have we got next? There you go. So I Google it. I'm sure there's loads of nice pictures out there. So what we got? The new 2021 Kawasaki Versys 1000. The popular around Versys 1000 this year is getting a bit of an overhaul. So the base model is going to go and it'll be replaced with a 100S. It's going to cost a wee bit more than its predecessor, so £1,700 more. Suppose.
We getting wet. Because £1,700 doesn't £1,700 in the grand scheme of things for a bike, and this is going to sound like I've got loads of money to burn. I really don't. I'm skint. But £1,700 not that much when you're getting a refresh on a bike. So it depends what you're getting it.
Yeah, it's a starting price of £1,300 or £12,999. You're getting
13,000 even.
13,000.
£1,300. I'd have been right out and bought one. I wouldn't be here recording this.
If we go back to we're not very good with numbers, but do you know what I mean? 13,000, 12,999. Yeah,
which is still good value.
It's a 1,043cc engine. I mean, Versus is, for what you get in a Versus, is just, it's great money. Do you know what I
Aye.
mean? 16 valve inline 4, it produces 118 brake horsepower again. It's 255 kilos wet with a standard seat height of 840 millimetres, which just scares the bejesus out of me for being able to even get my leg over the top of that. But that's just how short.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Aye, true. Showa semi-active suspension, heated grips, cornering lights, up and down quick shifter, 4 rider modes that are linked to the traction control, TFT dash, and all the usual stuff. So that's all the extra stuff you're getting on top of all the usual stuff in your Versus.
So when you think about 1,700 quid
Aye.
and they're adding all that to it, it's actually pretty good value.
It's
you know
excellent
what I mean?
value for money, and they're going to continue with the Tourer and the Grand Tourer as well. With the panniers, tank pad, fog lights, top box, GPS bracket. It depends which one you go for, obviously. So a fully loaded 2021 Versus 1000 GT will set you back 14,699, right? And that gives everything.
I'll take my shoes back off there. I thought, you know what I mean?
1,400.
1,400. I was like, wait, shoes off, let's
absolutely.
go.
When you think it's competitors, base models, they're starting at 15.5k, 17.5k. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, because it's up there. It's trying to compete with the likes of your GSEs and your Multistradas, and they're. I mean, I don't think the GS probably starts at about 15.5, but that'll be. There you go. There's the keys.
Yeah,
by the way, here's a 100-page accessory booklet where you want all your extra
they'll do
stuff.
that typical BMW thing that BMW does with their cars, where they turn around and say, "I'll just take the base model," and they go, "Well, we can't really actually sell you a base model. We can sell you with this or that thing, but we've not got one that's just the base model."
Aye, I mean, see, for an extra, you could just get.
Aye. Exactly.
And I'm the world's worst because I then go, okay, I'll take it. Hence why I'm driving a fully loaded BM RT.
Yes.
This next topic is one that's dear to me. I'm just calling that out right now. The Department of Transport is refusing extensions to CBTs and theory passes during lockdown. The Department of Transport is refusing to consider extensions to certificates and pass certificates, CBT certificates, despite the fact that we've been in lockdown and there's been so much disruption in the last 12 months. I mean, the nearest riding school for here has been shut 4 or 5 months now because of the lockdown and Christmas and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, my son's, going back to the bobber conversation, he wants a bobber, right? He's
Good lad.
He desperately wants a bobber, right? And he wants to do his CBT and everything. He's just back from Spain. He is working away just now. He's working just now, but I said, well, we'll get you a CBT, and there's one in Paisley, and it just says on the website it's only if you're like an NHS worker.
Aye, frontline
workers or a key worker. You can come in and do your CBTs, but that's all they're allowing it for. And when you've got that level of restrictions on who can or can't do CBTs and get tests, I think it's shocking. I think it's shocking that they're not going to consider an extension.
Yeah, I know. There was a petition put in, and there was 60,000 signatures on it, and it went to the government or via the government's website to say, listen, this should be changed. And even if they changed it just for frontline workers, that'd be great, but they're not. It's a blanket, no, we're not doing it. So they're standing their ground. And what they've said is the maximum duration of 2 years between passing a theory test is placed to ensure candidate knowledge is current. So that being the case, then why is like drivers who haven't been on the road for a year been asked to go and reset it or refresh, or do you know what I mean? Because I'll be honest, that's my fear, is you go back out when everything's lifted and everybody decides, oh, it's a sunny weekend, let's just go and have fun, and let's head to the seaside for a cone and whatever, and it's absolute chaos and bedlam out there, and people, I mean, I don't want to say, well, lose. It's like being, I don't like to use a football analogy, but it's like being match fit. You can be physically fit, but are you match sharp? And that's the thing that kind of worries me.
I mean, I know, right? When I went to New Zealand, and I was off the bike for a few years, and then I bought the Triumph. I was pretty scared about going back on a bike after it went off, and I was maybe off the bike for about 4 years. I hadn't been on a bike for about that length of time, and I was like genuinely really quite nervous about doing it. Luckily, you get on the bike and you just take your time, you take it easy, it comes back to you,
and then you get the smile, and then you go,
and you realise what was I all worried about. But that's 4 years, genuinely. But it came back, it was fine. Maybe, what about this? Maybe they should just say, well, look, if your practical testing of it right has been prolonged or whatever, you've got to do your kind of theory test. Do it again, but you'd have to pay for it.
Aye, see, that would make sense. Even just turn around and say...
Some sort of test to prove that your
some
knowledge
sort
is
of...
still current.
And I guarantee there'll be more to come through this. This will rumble on, I think, because, albeit we're kind of starting to see the end of lockdown, this is still going to impact, because you're still going to have biker schools and test centres and all that kind of stuff.
Backlog of lessons, backlogs, all these kind of things.
Look at... Obviously, we've got a friend of ours he's got 125 at the minute. He's done his CBT and all that kind of good stuff, and he's cutting about in his little 125, and he's loving it, and he's new to the biking world. He can't get a theory test until the 10th. I think it's the 10th of May or something like that.
That was what
it's
like
like 10th of May. It's absolutely mental, and he booked that away last month. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's one of those ones. It sticks in my gut a bit, even just frontline workers, because there'll be a lot of frontline workers don't want to take public transport because albeit we're getting vaccinated and all that kind of good stuff, but still there's that kind of fear element.
And is there really that many frontline workers queuing up to get a bike?
Who knows? It depends what you deem frontline workers. Technically, both of us are frontline workers, and yet we work in completely different sectors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, who knows?
I know, that's what I think.
That was this week's news. So, that point of the show. And we need some sort of music. We do need a jingle.
Absolutely.
The big question. The big question. We should. That's actually. Who needs a jingle? We'll just do it ourselves. So this week's big question: today's motorbike license, is it too tough to obtain, or is it not tough enough? What we'll do is we'll step through exactly what each phase is, how much it costs, and then you and I can. I think we'll probably be. I'm quite confident we might be quite aligned on this, but I'm reserving. So, in today's world, right, there is 5 key points to us getting the big bike off the ground. We'll ignore the whole license restriction thing, like up to 19, up to 24, A1, A2, right? We're just going big bike, right? We'll go old school, we're going big bike, all right?
We'll make this... Although I do think, and we'll probably talk about it later on, the age thing has changed since I sat a test.
Aye, absolutely.
And probably since...
No. I think it just came in when I started.
Did it? Yeah.
I think it just came in.
Aye.
I don't know. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. And, as we've established numbers and memory, at our age, it starts to get a bit easy.
Anyway, we'll probably come to that point anyway.
So we'll go through the license, like the actual paperwork side, the CBT side, the theory test, the mod 1, the mod 2, and then we can rattle through in case there is people out there that don't realise. Because I'm imagining there's probably veterinary, what actual treat animals and ride bikes, veterans, experienced riders out there that maybe had their test the same as you did before all this chaos came in.
Even before, because obviously I was, I wasn't a 17-year-old just jumping onto a bike, and a 16-year-old even jumping onto a 125 because
I wish I'd done it.
I know.
But,
so anyway.
That's a whole other week. Right, so first off, you need an actual driving licence or a UK provisional licence at a cost of £34, right? And that's assuming you do it online, okay? Now, full licence, obviously, for a driver will have that provisional part on it, so they don't need to apply, and that lets them go and start to look at CBTs and all that kind of good stuff.
Or if they really want to, can they still just jump onto like a 50cc moped, can't they?
I think it depends when you got your licence. I don't know. We'd need to look at that. But I know mine's, but then I got my licence in '94, my driving licence.
Yeah, and that was what.
And I could go a moped on with L plates, 50cc's, then no going motorways and all that kind of good stuff. Well,
let's be honest, nobody wants to go on a 50cc.
No, I think I'd go off and walk every day. You can apply for your UK provisional at the age of 15 years and 9 months, would you believe? Which is quite scary. But then I suppose if you're getting your bike provisional and then you take your year on a moped at 16 and then do your CBT at 17.
At 17, then I suppose it's a bit...
then it's a bit...
I mean, is it Americans that start driving? They do driver's ed at 15 years old, don't they?
I know. That's just, I know.
Although driving a car in America is a doddle, automatic, point and shoot.
Well, that's what you've got now, an automatic, and it's just, it's lazy.
Aye.
But it's just,
It's great,
aye,
isn't it?
it's just great. I don't need to flaff about the lights and stuff. It's brilliant.
Right. That's your licence.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's assume we are 17 or 18 or whatever. We've
Yep.
got our licence. What's the first thing we do?
You obtain a CBT. So you used to be, when I first passed my test, way back in last century, and literally last century, you could literally just get on a 125 and ride it.
The glory days.
Glory days, aye. You could go on a 125, you could ride it, and brilliant, right? Great, you could do that. But then they introduced CBTs. I don't know when it was, but it was certainly before I then went to learn to ride a bike, which was in my about 30 or something when I did that. So, so you're obtaining a CBT. The average cost of a CBT is 125 quid,
Aye, give or take.
isn't
I suppose it depends where you are in the UK
Yeah, where
or
you're
across
going.
the world.
It's full days. It's full day training. When I did it, I was told you can't fail it,
But that's it's not a test though, isn't it? No.
It's
I think they can refuse to give you one if you've
you're like an absolute walloper on the bike.
if you're
you know what I mean?
like seriously dangerous driving. Do you know what I mean they can refuse to give you one? But I think as long as you meet certain criteria, I think you're fine.
Essentially, it's there to make sure that when you are out practicing, when you're out, you know that you're competent on the roads. It's a full day's training in 5 elements. Element 1 is an introduction and eyesight check, which
I think I'd fail that now.
aye, so would I. On-site training, how the bike operates, balance, the weight of the bike, on-off stance. So basically,
I
just
think I'd fail that and on now.
totally. I certainly. Can you imagine doing my CBT on the day I got my first big bike, dropping it? You know, that
If the weather had been like that, then aye, absolutely. But I think you might get a reprieve on that one.
And then there's a load of on-site riding. So any CBT centre you go to will have a big area off-road tarmac that you can do all your manoeuvres, your stopping and starting and all that.
Safe zone. A safe zone.
A safe zone,
Aye.
you know.
To practice all the things that you'll never ever do on an actual real bike.
Exactly.
With the exception of a U-turn.
Aye. I hated doing a U-turn as well.
Unless you buy like a, I don't know, BMW R19 or a Honda Goldwing that's got a reverse gear.
Oh yeah, that's silly. Reverse gear, your back heels and hope that there's no any loose chuckies and you drop your bike.
Aye, or wet leaves.
Back to that. So you're on-site riding, right? So you've got that, and they'll not let you on the road until you've, you know, done everything you can on the on-site riding. And then I think in the afternoon, usually they take you out on the road in groups, a couple of you with an instructor, to actually be on the road. And that is scary. I still remember how scary that is.
Do you know, I think that would be my dream job though.
Oh, I'd love to be.
Biking instructor. I don't think I'll get patience for it.
No.
You know what I mean? I don't think I'm that way inclined. But
Yeah.
aye, I think that would be a nice job.
And do you know what? It's certainly a potential job for people out there. Do you know what I mean? If you've been in bikes a while, and you know, I reckon there might be a few positions because if there is a backlog and all that because of the pandemic,
I think so.
there might
Aye,
be an
and I think
opportunity there,
to
especially
teach
if you're not
CBTs, you need to do like a specific
you do aye.
thing.
And you could just be the
That
CBT
sounds so
yeah.
non-descriptive. You need to do a specific thing, but you need to be able to. You need to be qualified to do CBTs, and you can take that and do that only as that. Because I know when I did mine, there was a guy at the test school, and that's all he done because that was all he was qualified to do was CBTs. So you're right. I think there's maybe a.
So it's worth looking into if you're thinking about it. There's probably a possibility there.
I'm going to Google that right
Darren
now.
is googling as we speak. And then there's then they take you out on the road, yeah, absolutely. And once you've done that, once you've been told that you're competent in doing that, and when I did my CBT, I fell off the bike, broke the brake. So if anyone out there who's thinking of going and doing their CBT, never pull the front brake while turning a corner. Okay, don't do that. Even at 3 or 4 miles an hour, you're coming off that bike if you don't know what you're doing, right? Aye. So that's my big lesson and take away from anyone going to do a CBT. Do not press the front brake whilst turning a corner.
You dropped the bike, you broke the front brake.
Aye.
You broke the front brake. Did you still obtain a CBT certificate?
I still obtained a CBT that day. There you go.
So it wasn't dangerous.
No, it wasn't.
It was just a lapse in concentration.
And it was quite near the start of the off-road training bit, so... And by the time, they wouldn't let me out on the road unless they thought I was competent, and that's the key to it all, really. You know what I mean? And nobody on my course, I'm sure nobody in your CBT course ever didn't get their CBT.
Oh, no.
The guy. I remember the guy saying sometimes we'll maybe get somebody in for a couple of hours the next day just to, just to
brush up,
or maybe
focus on a wee thing,
nerves or something. Sometimes in a group, but you should get your CBT.
I've got a laugh when I did my CBT. Right, they obviously how to take the bike on and off a stand. They obviously do side stand, and they obviously do centre stand. Right, because obviously there's technique to getting on a centre stand. Mine didn't have a side stand. Mine only had a centre stand, right? Because it had broke on the bike, right? And the guy said, "Oh, I think we need to put petrol in yours while we're out, like at the start of the kind of on-road thing." Okay. So did we not get to the garage, and then I had to try and get off the bike and get it on the centre stand. Now normally you would get off the bike with a side stand, get off, and then pop it up. No. Try doing it, and and there you go. After I'd done that in the petrol station, I was like, this is a breeze.
I know. God, I've forgotten all about that whole centre stand, side stand thing. That's it. Anyway, so brilliant CBT. You've got it. Great. So you can stick an L plate on your V125 if that's what you've got. Yeah. Go for a ride. Okay. But before you can even think about anything else, the next thing you've got to do is pass your theory test, and that's 23 quid. That's the same everywhere, isn't it? £23 at the DVLA charge.
Yeah, that's a DVLA charge.
Yeah. Multiple choice questions based on highway code, and it's very similar to the car one. So if you've done your car one recently, it's very similar, but there will be some bike specific questions.
Yep.
And some of them are just ridiculously stupid, aren't they? In terms of common sense things, you know what I mean?
Oh, I reckon I could give one of my kids the app and get them to sit the test, and I think they'd still get things done. I think they'd still potentially pass it.
Yeah.
Which anyway. You never know.
Multiple choice, and then you get your hazard perception test, and that's video clips of everyday scenarios, and it's literally just like driving along the road, and you've got to click on the hazards as you see them.
Aye, and you can't just go click.
But don't make the mistake a friend of mine made and failed it by just clicking once. You can click and then maybe click it again one or two times just to make sure you've picked up the hazard.
Aye, because the way they score it is the earlier you see the hazard, the more points you get. Yeah.
But actually, you can see the hazard too early for the software to pick it up.
It's
so
very
it's always
fine.
Worthwhile doing at least one or two, maybe three clicks, just a wee second afterwards, so you get some sort of points, just in case you're actually really good and you've got that hazard a bit quicker.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you're looking at it and going, especially when we talk to Hugh about IAM. A lot of that is obviously perception, and a lot of that is anticipating as early as possible. I mean, what's going to happen in front of you? Like where there's a junction, you might not see anything going in it, but it's a junction, so your road position for all that kind of good stuff. And you might just naturally be that way, especially if you've been driving for a while. You get that sixth sense. You'll
see, so if you're in a hazard perception, you'll see a junction, you'll click and go, here's a junction coming up, that's a hazard perception, and then about maybe a half a second or a second later, there'll be a girl with a pram walking out round the corner for that junction.
Click, 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 click.
That's the hazard perception they want you to find. So just always make sure you maybe do one or two clicks. It knows if you're just clicking randomly, but it gives you a bit of leeway to click one or two times. That's probably my biggest piece of advice.
Or you're like the piggy bank on Toy Story.
Absolutely.
Try to find the channel. Cool. So you get your theory test.
Yep.
So you've got CBT, you've got theory test.
And they're not 100% pass. It's 43 out of 50 for your theory test and 44 out of 75 for your hazard perception.
Isn't it bad? 44 out of 75.
It's pretty decent.
That's
I don't know anyone that's ever got 75 out of 75 for a perception test because it's timed. Or did you?
No,
I didn't think so. But I
46.
think anything above about kind of 50, 55 is a really good score.
Aye,
from that point of view.
I think because it is that it's when you think a perception is versus when it thinks a hazard's of developing.
It's becoming a hazard.
It's the golden zone. It's
that's the difference between your bike test and your advanced biking test, your IAM.
Aye, you're taking it that next step further. Aye, and then it's all your actions thereafter. We'll cover that with you because I'm sure me and him will bore the life out of everybody with that. You know what I mean?
Hugh's good at that. No boring the life of you.
Aye.
Anyway, so that's your test. So that's you're good to go, and it's like Yahoo. Now it's time to go and pass my test, or is it?
Well, or is it? No, because they wouldn't make it that simple. You need that theory test certificate before you can move on to the next stage, and that next stage is the Mod 1 test. Dun dun dun.
For those of you that maybe been riding a bike for a while, or I've been speaking to somebody who's been riding a bike for a while. When I sat my test, it was just literally a case of
A test.
A test.
1 day. Why?
one day it's a test, and depending on the size of the engine you're riding and depending on your age, that depended on what type of bike you could get when you passed it.
Aye.
What was that?
Well, no. They made it more complicated, which maybe a
And
good
the-
thing,
and
maybe a
the-
bad thing.
And the up the age
Well, aye, exactly.
for the
And
biggest bikes.
Aye, and they up the size of the bike you can set it on depending on your age and stuff like that. So, but the actual test itself for the Mod 1 is pretty standard. So it doesn't matter whether you're sitting on a scooter or the 250 or 400 or whatever age bracket you're in, or you mean a 650. Because if you want to get your big license, it needs to be but even I think they've changed that. It's not so much a 650 now. I think it's certain kilowatt output.
It is, yeah. Aye.
As opposed to just being like a 650 when it was. So there you go. I sat it 5 years ago.
My Triumph Street Cup isn't. If you sat it in my Street Cup, you wouldn't get to then go take a high vis out.
And it's like a 900cc in it.
900cc,
so
yeah.
you're like, it's nuts. And it does shift his bike. Tron Instant. Anyway, Mod 1 cost you £15.50.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. But you're only in there for 10 minutes. If you do it right, you're only in there for 10 minutes. But they say it's a 20-minute off-road test. So it's within a controlled area. Again, it's a paddock or a laid-out piece of tarmac that usually they've got really nice tarmac in there. It's like the best roads you've ever been on. But they seem to be kind of, I know the one for here is definitely, it's almost like porous, so that when the rain comes, it almost seeps through so that you get the same surface every time, which is quite interesting. But it's, you treat it like a main road. So even though it's well away from traffic and it's all fenced in, you have to treat it like a main road, and you have to do lifesavers and all that kind of good stuff in order to pass. But there is a number of elements that you go through. There's the manual moving of a bike, so can you actually manually pick up and move the bike about, which is kind of key if you're
dropping them,
as opposed to dropping them. There's
I've got a funny feeling if you drop the bike at that point, you've probably failed.
Aye,
That's
although I don't know actually. I'm going to Google that question as well. You know what I mean? I would imagine you would, but stranger things.
It's a bit like stalling your bike in the middle of the road as you turn into the test centre at the end of your test. I can tell you that fails you.
Does it?
Aye, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, if you stall a car when you're on a car test, as long as you go through the right procedure, the safe, correct procedure to restart the car, you wouldn't fail on it. You get a mark against you.
Yeah, well, apparently because I was stuck in the middle of the road trying to turn right.
I think he just didn't like you, that guy.
Maybe, possibly.
Once you move the bike, you go into a slalom straight into a figure of eight. So you do a slalom between, I think, 4 or 5 cones, and then you go straight into a figure of eight. That whole time, you can't put your foot down, you can't hit a cone. It's that one catches a lot of people out. I think I caught my wife out about 4 times. I think it was the 5th time before she eventually passed that.
You got a few goes at it though?
No, you get one go at it.
So you then got to come back and do a test again for another £15.50?
Aye. So if you literally if you go in, move the bike, and everything's fine. Oh, and by the way, when you're moving the bike, it's all coned off. So there's a space you drive in front, and then you need to manually handle the bike into the next space, which is coned off. You hit one of those cones, that's you done. I mean, you've been in the test, you've been in that paddock for the whole of 2 minutes, and you've clipped a cone. Thank you, come again. Leave your £15.50 at the door.
Clip the cone with a bike or with you or the bike?
Either.
Right.
So clip it with a bike, clip it with your toe. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Any kind of movement on that cone, and it's done. Obviously, with the exception of the wind. I mean,
aye.
If you casually drop one on the way by and it blows the cone out, that's not really your fault.
Absolutely.
But if you physically,
and to be fair, it's quite impressive.
If
anything, you get brownie points for that.
Aye.
Pardon the use of the word brownie points. That's maybe not the best.
Moving on.
Anyway.
Again, what bugs me about that is those, when are you ever going to do a figure of eight?
Oh, I know.
It must be something to do with manual handling.
Aye.
So if you get that bit done fine, you go into what they call a slow ride, which you kind of do on your CBT as well. It's just riding at the pace that somebody's walking at. So the examiner will walk and you ride the bike along beside them at kind of walking pace, and I think it's just to show balance and control.
Yeah.
From there, you go into a U-turn, and again, there's 2 big white lines. You need to do a U-turn inside that. I mean, without putting your foot down.
Pretty wide apart, though, aren't they? It's not.
Aye, it's not a standard street width. It's actually slightly wider than that. You know what I mean?
They do. Don't panic about the. I mean, I panicked with a U-turn when I was sitting my test, and you did it on the main road, but the road they give you is pretty wide.
When I went to do my mod 1, we left early and pulled in at a wee side street near IKEA, believe it or not. And I did about 4 or 5 on a street that was even smaller. And then when I went into my test and done it, I literally turned the bike round and I was about 1.5 meters away from the line. And I thought, should I move that hour? Should I not move it hour? Is that supposed to simulate a curb? But it didn't matter. As long as you did it safely.
Good to know.
And then the 3 biggies that I quite enjoyed, that's the fun bit about the test, is the corner and controlled stop. So you kind of go from the bottom corner, a bit like a gymnast, you go from the bottom corner to the top corner, and you ride around a simulated bend that they have coned out for you. Again, don't hit a cone. And then you come out that bend, and then you come down, and then there's marked out area where you need to bring a bike to a stop. Straightforward enough.
You've got to get yourself up to speed?
Not on that part. No, it's only on the next 2. So the emergency stop, which is the next 3, do exactly the same again, but when you come down, he'll put the old hand up and you need to bring the bike to a controlled stop as quickly as possible, right, under safe conditions. They don't call it an emergency stop. I don't know why they threw away for that, but when you do that, you go through the speed trap. Yes, they have a speed trap. You go through the speed trap and you need to be doing 31 miles an hour, 50 kilometres an hour or something like that. They measure it in kilometres anyway. 19 miles an hour if you're on a moped. If you can get a moped up to 90 miles an hour, fair play to you. You should just get a test anyway. You should just get the certificate, let you go, and a £15.50 refund.
And an Amazon gift card.
And an Amazon gift card. Aye, exactly. Or a preloaded supermarket of your choice.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then the last bit is you, again, ride up in that same diagonal to diagonal, round the bend, come down, and once you go through the speed trap, there's separate cones to the side of the kind of stop cones, which simulates a hazard, and you've got to kind of weave in between those cones. I loved that. I wanted to do that again. I loved it.
That's fun, isn't it?
Aye, it's just that whole way, just getting your body to move a bike, but it's good. And that would be your mod 1.
So, do it right, you can be there for only 10 minutes.
Pretty much,
You know, do it wrong, and you're back again. And another £15.50 down.
Aye.
And
do it right, you're there 10 minutes. Do it wrong, you're out in 90 seconds.
Aye, fair enough.
But, aye, essentially.
Cool. And then after that, it's the bit that I kind of know more, because this is your mod 2.
This is classic.
This is your classic test. What anyone would expect you do is eye tests, some questions, show me, tell me questions. Do you remember what yours were?
How would you check your back brake? Where would you check your brake fluid? How would you check your full beam? I think it was one other one, I can't remember. I think there's about 8 questions they answer. I mean, it's not like they just give you random questions.
They ask you questions. And I certainly remember getting asked about tightening your chain.
Aye, that's a good one.
That's, definitely read up and look up that one. You know what I mean?
Aye.
That's a wee bit complicated if you don't know how to tighten your chain.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
And then pass the test and go and buy a drive shaft. But yep.
Aye, exactly. I remember getting asked that one, but and then you do a road ride, directions given. So there'll be a thing in your ear, and they'll just shout to you. They'll follow you in a bike or a car.
Aye, that's true, actually. Aye, it's a good call.
My first test, I've got followed in a bike. My second test and my third test were cancelled because of the weather. My fourth test, which was technically my second test, I would get followed in a car. So it's both, yeah. And then there's independent riding. So that's not something I did. Independent riding.
That's where they'll get to I don't know. For me, I literally came out of the test centre, got to the first roundabout, and he said, right, I want you to take the first left. Yeah. So I took the first left, and then all he said to me was, I want you to head for Govan, right? Which, if no one knows, you mean the area, that's just pointless. Govan could be in Mars for all we know. But essentially, he just said, head for that place, and you just need to follow the road signs that takes you to that place. Now, for me, where the test centre is to Govan is straight road. I mean, there's one set of lights and a roundabout, and then that's you almost at Govan. So all I had to do was kind of drive in a straight line and make sure that I didn't mess up a set of lights or a roundabout. So, but it may be more complicated than that. I suppose it depends where you live.
Yeah,
it depends what kind of mood the examiner's
chances are
in.
though, but they'll give you a place that's well signposted.
And it doesn't last. It's not something that lasts long. It's just so that you can still ride the bike and read road signs and make sure you're actually
not too worrying about folk whispering in your ear, kind of thing.
Aye,
you know.
Aye, it's just I think the good thing is when he did it at first, it calmed me down a wee bit.
Aye,
because it just gave me a chance to kind of go right.
I'm settled.
Just do what you need to do.
Exactly.
Do right stuff.
And then when you get through all that, you pass. You take back to the test centre, and remember, you're being tested right up to the point you're off that bike. And the minute you're even taking the bike into the test centre and parking your bike up and putting your centre stand or your side stand down, getting off the bike and all that stuff, you're still being observed right up to that point. Your bike's off, and your keys back and everything. So don't let your guard down at all. And they say, congratulations, actually you passed the test. Boom, you can now free to ride. But there is again the age restrictions.
Aye. Or you got the guy I got who took me into a room, and if he's listening, my apologies, but he took me into the wee room and he went, how do you think that went? And I thought, oh, here, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting that. And then he goes, do you remember back at this point? And I went, oh, now by that point you've come in and you've went, I think that's went all right. And then your brain goes, what?
Aye.
And just blanks out the last 40 minutes. And you go, aye, right. But lucky enough, I think he was just pulling my leg. He was just kind of saying, listen, you could pick up a wee point there.
Aye.
Just be careful. That's something you need to.
The guys are genuinely wanting you to pass your test.
They are.
Don't believe all the kind of rubbish about being bad instructors and bad test guys and all that. They genuinely want you to pass your test. My first test, which I failed, which was the stalling thing and everything, he said, when I first started, I was really nervous. And I don't know if that was just an age thing. You're a bit older and you're doing a test again and you don't have that, you're a bit more...
Because you haven't done an exam or a test or anything like that since you passed your...
And he purposefully gave me all my manoeuvres, my U-turn, all that right at the start, because he thought, if I get all that over with...
See, obviously, them splitting that into mod 1, mod 2 now, you don't get that.
You don't get that now.
I think the only manoeuvre you get, he gets you to pull in and then pull back out again. So he gets you to pull in and stop at a curb. And then one of them, you need to pull in and stop, but with your front wheel pointing out the way.
Yeah.
So that if you were up behind something or something would box you in, it's so that you can learn to thingy. But that's the only ones you get.
So, but they're genuinely want you to pass your test. That's because they're all bikers themselves. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and it is that one of these, that unique kind of camaraderie you've got as a biker. You know what I mean?
Aye.
You don't see folk waving at each other as they drive by in their cars. So, I don't ever think that's the case. But once you've done that, that's you're free to ride. If you pass first time, pass your mod 1 first time, CBT and all that stuff, that's £286 that's cost you.
That's just the fees?
Just the fees for the test and everything, plus whatever it costs you to ride a bike. So if you are going to a place and you don't have your own bike, you're not only paying for the lessons, you're paying for the hire of the bike every time.
Aye.
And I think at the time for me, I think I bought a set of lessons, and then this is, you're talking 1994. A set of lessons. I think that was about £1,000 in total.
Aye.
For all my lessons. Now, a bit of that was maybe a wee bit extra because I had a couple of tests cancelled due to bad weather, so I had to keep buying extra lessons in order to make sure I kept my practice up, because I didn't have a bike. I didn't buy a 125 and go out and run it. I just did lessons on their bikes, and that was £1,000. So if you get your own bike, you'll have a 125, but you'll still have to go on their bikes at some point and go in the 600s or whatever.
Aye, you still need to jump to the big bike. Aye, and that's where the money, that's where it starts to increase.
So it isn't cheap to learn to ride a bike.
No, you know no, it's not. And and for all we use it as a sales pitch to go, I know, but I mean, it's cheaper to run and blah, blah, blah. We feel...
We should maybe put a spoiler to start the podcast to say, please make sure if you're using the excuse it's cheaper to ride a bike in a car, do not let your other half listen to this. Do you know what I mean?
We might build that into the post. You know what I mean?
Or maybe get a jingle before we talk about this. Spoiler warning. You know what I mean? Make sure the room is clear. There we go. There's your age limits.
Aye, well, yeah.
Touching them very briefly, just for people that don't know, but
age A1 license, 17 lets you ride up to 11 kilowatt, which is just under 15 brake horsepower. Essentially a 125. Then you get your A2, so that's like age 19, up to age 19, and that's 35 kilowatt, so around about 46 brake horsepower. Then when you get to 21, you can...
Which was that was the limit for me when I sat my test. Yeah. I mean, I was well over 21 at that point. But
so, it's 21, if you've been through what they call progressive access. So if you were 19 and did your A2, when you turn 21, you can reset, and that takes you into a big bike straight away.
Right.
If you were coming straight in at 21 and not done that, you need to wait till you're 24 to do direct access.
And it was direct access was what I did.
Yeah.
But obviously it was the age limit was 21. I was well over 21. But that's my, that's why I'm kind of not too bothered with my son doing his CBT, because he'll be 24 in October.
So
as soon as he turns in October, he can start doing it as soon as he can get a CBT and stuff. He'll set his test, and he's 24.
And there's a lot to be said for well, again, this is obviously back into this is obviously the point of discussion. That is like, is it? Because that's a lot of hoops to jump through, right? And you and I have both got different experiences, because you did your test long before mine. You saw the light and did it long before me. I had to negotiate certain obstacles.
Well, I mean,
love you, darling.
Yeah.
You're listening.
Aye. I mean, I had those obstacles to negotiate as well, but luckily I didn't have as many obstacles to negotiate as a test and all that. I just had the please, can I do it?
Aye, I think for me it's tough. It is tough, but I think it's fair. I think the age restriction stuff is definitely. A lot of people might out there be listening at age 19 or 20 that are stuck on an A2 license, but it's for your own. For your own safety. And that's always the fear. And if anything, actually, that's why I chose to do a year on my CBT and ride my 125. And yeah, it means you've got to buy a bike and then sell it. 125s are fairly good at holding their money, because everybody, or a lot of people kind of go down that route.
To be honest, it's the route I would probably have gone down if I hadn't been given that big kind of cash injection with redundancy and been able to just like get a big bulk load of lessons.
Just bite the bullet.
Because anyone I know that passed right about the same time as me said, actually just
learn your craft better when you're.
But then there's that balance between that and learning your bad habits. Do you know what I mean?
But and that's exactly the point. And I did a year and did pick up bad habits. Do you know what I mean? I'll be honest.
Unlearn them.
I was a bit slack on the old shoulder checks. Not so much the lifesavers, but the shoulder checks. Do you know what I mean? And that took again, and that's like another. That maybe added to another lesson onto me on a big bike to try and weed that out. And if that adds a lesson on, then it's a 2-hour lesson and it's 150 quid, because you get the instructor to pay for, you get the bike to hire and all that kind of good stuff. So it quickly ramps up. Do you know what I mean? I think the one thing that, and this is going to throw controversy out there, or maybe people listening going like, yeah, campaign for that. I think all car drivers should be made to do a CBT on a bike before they learn to drive. I
think as a suggestion, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a great idea, but I don't think, unfortunately, it's just unfeasible.
There's too many drivers out there.
There's too many drivers out there, and there's a lot of people that will never be interested in a bike. I think
it's more for that
I would
awareness.
like to think that some drivers potentially have a better restricted to the power of the car they can drive. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but the minute you pass your test in a car, you can go out and buy yourself a
Lamborghini,
a 5-litre GT Mustang if you want. Do you know what I mean? And
aye, we're not get sidetracked, but aye.
But what I mean is, like, if it's like that for the bike, it should be like that. Sorry for that, folks. If it's like that for the bike, then it should absolutely be like that for a car as well.
I would, aye.
And I know we're talking about you can get boxes fitted and all this now for the insurance companies and all these kind of things to make sure, but there is nothing that a box in an insurance company, if you take off at the lights and your dad's F-Pace Jaguar, do you know what I mean, and hit a wee old woman crossing the road because you haven't controlled the takeoff because you're chasing away,
Because you're
and living where I live, there's a lot of big cars and there's a lot of young drivers.
I think you guys see a lot of old women.
There is also a lot of old women. I was actually going to say that. I was going to say
he's in the fun zone.
It's a wee village I stay in, and there's a relatively large elderly population, which when they are driving down the road and see their pal across the road and just stop in the middle of the road to wind the window down to ask them if they need any bread for the shops, you're like that. but there's also an awful lot of big cars, Audis, Range Rovers, and all these kind of things for mum and daddy, and the kids are driving about in them, and then they fly around.
And tying it back, I think the problem with that is, and hence why I'm saying, I think if it's not a CBT, it needs to be some sort of, even take them out pillion. Do you know what I mean? So that they can experience the world in the back of a bike, just so that they can, because you know yourself, you've been driving long before you were actually riding bikes.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the amount of things you see where you're riding a bike is frightening. For me, it was a massive eye opener.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Being on a bike, coming up to a set of lights, and you can see. I think you get much better awareness of what other drivers are doing. Mascara on their phones, texting, and
it's unbelievable sometimes. And of course, when you're in your car, you're just in the zone driving along. And yes, because I've always liked bikes, you're aware of it. There's a great thing kicking about Facebook at the moment, and you see it in quite a lot of the biker stuff, and it just says, teach your kids to count bikes when they're in the car, and then that way they'll always be aware of bikes in the road.
That's a good idea.
That's a really cool, I've seen that a couple of times, and I thought that's a really good idea. So when you're playing games in the car with the kids,
as opposed to, right, you count blue cars, I'll count green cars or whatever.
You count motorbikes, you count this, and kids will start to be aware of looking for bikes, and they'll always be looking for those kind of things. It's a great idea, I think.
There you go. So if anybody listening has got young kids, there you go. Start them nice and early and get them counting motorbikes and push bikes. I think
unfortunately the people that are going to be listening to this will be doing that with their kids anyway because they're bikers. But tell your friends that aren't bikers to do that as well.
And it'll be like, oh look, there's a green bike. It'll be like, oh look, there's a Kawasaki 650 Ninja.
Exactly, I know.
Oh look, there's a Ducati V4S. Look, it's aye.
I think possibly the awareness of other road users is probably a bigger part of the test. How we do that creatively, how we do that practically, I don't know, but I agree that there should be something more in there to let, because you're essentially driving a weapon. You know what I mean? A car is
or a
bike, or a bike. If you hit somebody with a bike, you hit somebody with a car. It's a weapon. Absolutely. So
it's a missile. You don't control a missile tanking along the road. What about anyone that's not been driving that then goes to sit there? That goes in. So I'm 17. I'm not interested in driving, but I really want a bike. Is there anything that should be factored in there to give them a perception of what drivers are experiencing on the road, or do you think that comes naturally? Because, well, let's be honest. I wouldn't be wrong in saying that probably most households have at least one car. Yeah.
I think probably this is where I do agree with the setup we've got here, in the sense of when you're 17, you cannot go out and get yourself a Hayabusa. Do you know what I mean? You cannot. You're restricted.
I'm 44 and I wouldn't even go to buy a Hayabusa.
No, absolutely. My mate had one and he said, "Would you like a shot?" And I went, "No, because I'd like to live." So it's fine. I think I don't. This is what I do agree with you. The big thing, when you're 17 though, is do get your 125 and sit and ride it for 6 months. Get your road sense. Take your time and do it. Do not do like some sort of week-long course that gets you your thing at the end of it and then go out and think you're an expert. And the trouble is when you're 17, you know what I mean? You think you're an expert.
Or you mean, again, not to discriminate against 17-year-olds, but even if you're in your early 50s and kids have moved out and whatever, and you suddenly get extra disposable income because you're not having to feed kids, and then go, do you know what? I always wanted my bike. I would say exactly the same thing. Don't go and rattle right through the test and then run a shibby out and buy.
I genuinely think
rocket.
when I exactly, but I think when I sat my test, failed the first one, and then there was a couple of tests that were cancelled, as I said, about bad weather, and it made I had to do more lessons. What was really nice was by the end of those extra lessons I was doing, I was just going out for a ride, with the instructor, but it's just that bit more road sense, that bit more just being in the zone on the bike rather than just rattling through. This is what you do to pass a test. Boom, go out and pass your test. Actually this is what it's like to ride a bike.
Yeah.
And I'm glad now in hindsight. I wasn't glad at the time because I wanted my bike license, but I'm glad in hindsight now that I got those extra lessons and those extra things. I remember one lesson where we just literally got on the bikes because one of the bikes that they had an indicator was broken on it. Somebody dropped it and we went down to another place down in Dalry, I think it was,
nice run.
We just took a run down to Dalry on the bikes as a lesson, picked up an indicator, and then drove rode back. Do you know what I mean? and it was just a great wee afternoon, couple of hours the bike,
Couple hours on the bike.
But it just, and I think that to me was the kind of the light bulb moment that is that I'm now riding a bike rather than learning how to ride a bike.
Aye, that's the.
And it wasn't long after that I got my test and I passed it, no problem.
There you go.
Because you just get
And
that
it
moment when it clicks, everything clicks.
See, I had another point and it's just vanished out my head. You know what I mean, completely vanished.
So I suppose looking at all that, then tough enough or too tough?
Overall, I think it's probably tough enough.
I'd say 80%.
Yeah,
I don't agree with the 24 age limit. I think 21's restrictive enough.
Would you trust your boy? Why am I saying that? He's nearly 24, so it
He's
doesn't
24 now. I think 21 is fine. I genuinely do.
I wouldn't have trusted myself at 21.
I was. I suppose. I mean, again, it depends on the individuals, but it just seems it's very hard for everything to be age ranged up to. I suppose insurance is 25, and your insurance drops down when you hit 25.
Aye, I'm not being funny. Even at 44, right? I still fight on insurance. Do you know what I mean? Because it comes through and every now and again, and for all, you mean, there's a prime example is my last bike. Well, I had two bikes before. I had the 850 GSA, which was a great bike, and I was finding I was riding that more than I was riding my Harley Sport Glide. But my Sport Glide was an 1800cc engine, big V-twin. It had so much torque, but it had very little BHP. I think it was about 83 roughly BHP, but loads and loads of torque. I bought that. I traded both of those in and bought that RT. Bought the RT, just phoned my insurance company and said, listen, take it down from a multi to a single. This is the bike. And they went, all right, that's going to cost you this extra for the next 6 months or whatever it was. And then my insurance renewal came in and it rocketed. I mean, I was cheaper for the previous two bikes than I was for one bike. And I phoned them up and I'm like, why is that so high? And they're like, oh, well, it's because you've went to a bike that's 136 brake horsepower. And I'm going, right, but my argument is that it's a 1250. My last bike was an 1800. The torque on this is a lot less than what my Harley was. Yeah. And I was insuring two bikes previously as opposed to one bike. So how can it jump up so? You mean, how can it be so huge? And that was a fight with the insurance company. I eventually moved insurance company. Right. So, but again, that's one of the things you can look at it and go, what, really? But I suppose that's where if you're 21 and you go out and buy a Hayabusa, if you can afford the Hayabusa. And don't get me wrong, we'll talk about that probably in the coming weeks, the new Hayabusa, because it's lovely. But if you can afford the Hayabusa, and you can afford to run a Hayabusa, and you can afford the insurance on a Hayabusa, well, hell mend you. Do you know what I mean? On you go. And there might be guys out there that are 21 that have had dirt bike experience and, you know what I mean, have been and are prolific riders.
I think that
at 21.
you're being 21, you're probably economically restricted anyway, most of the time.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Aye, that's true.
And you are 21, so, everything else is opened up for you. You can do everything else legally when you hit 21, so that would be the only thing I think is maybe just a wee bit too harsh. But the progressive nature of it and working your way through, I actually think's
I think the only thing on the progressive thing is I think they should make it, once you've done the test initially, if you're 17, then you got to go back and redo it again at 19 for the A2, and then you got to go back at 21 to do it for your full A. I think there should be some sort of discount in there so that it's no an absolute drain in terms of costing you up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, it's nearly 100 something quid by the time you add your. Well, I don't know if you'd fit your mod 1. I think you'd maybe just stay in mod 2. But maybe they do both. But let's say they do both. That's like 100 odd quid. So you've got to do it again and then to do it again, and it's like, I don't think that's right. I mean, I think they should discount it in some way. But it's a fair point. I did think we'd agree on this one. Do you know what I mean? Because I think we're both of that similar ilk. Do you know what I mean?
It's you. The more you ride, the more you see how stupid folk are. So the more you need to be taught to watch it for yourself.
Aye.
Especially a commute. And we've done a lot of commuting in the bikes, and people.
And city riding's the pits.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? It's slow. It's, would you call it? But if anything, you learn a load.
The amount of close shaves you have with folk just when you filter.
Oh,
it's just
buses, bikes, pedestrians. Do you know what I mean? Glasgow city centre's just like an assault course.
Aye, it's just not a couple of cones and a bit of tarmac.
No, What about you? 80-20 then.
80-20.
80-20.
Aye.
Tough.
Aye.
It's just tough enough.
Just tough enough.
Couple of wee tweaks here and there. Maybe cheeky discount, and we'll be and it
Good
would
to,
be
hear,
ideal.
good to hear your thoughts, folks, who are listening. You know,
Aye,
what you
and-
think. Have you just been through that? You know, was it as tough as it sounds on paper?
Yeah,
You know, that's the thing. Is it as tough now? I mean, you've been through that, really, haven't you? So
I went through it, but again, 5 years ago, and a lot.
Aye.
A lot of that's changed, and the roads have changed, riders have changed, drivers have changed. There's maybe more cyclists. So what's the? It'd be good to get that input. Be good to
Yeah.
get some feedback. So that's us, episode 1 in the bag, as they say.
Absolutely.
That was quite painless, actually.
it was lovely.
I
It's
quite
great to
enjoyed
just
that.
sit and chat and
I know.
shoot the breeze. Hope if you were listening, you enjoyed it.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. If
Tell your friends, post it in all your bike blogs, Facebook pages.
that's it,
You know,
we'll need to do that actually.
Yeah.
And that's probably something. Again, we're just starting, so
Yeah.
please be patient. We will get
Instagram, Facebook,
we'll get a Facebook and Instagram set up.
TikTok. Too old for TikTok.
TikTok's how I pass 2 hours of my life in an instant.
I know.
It's like a time machine.
It's
TikTok.
like the new Reddit. Sometimes when Reddit came out and it's like the
Aye.
front page of the internet and you just go, all of a sudden you've got long hair,
Aye.
a beard and,
you
and
go down
somebody's written
you go down a rabbit hole.
aye, there's a white ball at the back with Wilson's hand on it. You know what I mean? You go, how the hell did that happen?
Maybe we could TikTok. I don't know how safe it would be TikTok and bikes, but you never know. Watch this space.
Any
Let's
ideas
start-
if folks
let's-
send them in?
Alright, we'll start with Facebook and Instagram, and then we'll
Absolutely.
take it from there.
Perfect. Anyway,
Cool.
that's it.
That's us. All done. You know what we need? We need a tagline. I'm pretty sure we come up with a good tagline.
I'm sure there's being the gentleman that we are, you know.
Aye.
Yeah.
Again, I think like, share, subscribe, all that jazz.
Absolutely.
But I think we need a mantra. Ian, what do you think the mantra should be?
Well, I think what we'll go for is until next time, folks, remember, only a biker understands why a dog sticks his head out of a car window.
Genius.
You see? And I thought that bit was going to be too rough as well.
Hey! And on that bombshell,
And then that bombshell, folks.
thanks for listening, folks. Speak soon.